So today's session is all about improving response time and compliance for FOIA or public record requests. And we're doing that in partnership with two other folks, Ephesoft as well as Alfresco. And all of these solutions are running on FedRA moderate environments. So let's get into it. A quick word about what I do. I'm a VP of Enterprise Practice at Armedia. Have a number of years in technology, probably too long to admit. Also in sales, as well as in recent years, it's been around content management, case management, and content capture. And then prior to that, as an IT consultant and developer as well. Let me talk about all three parties that are represented today in order at which we're showcasing them in the solution that you're about to hear. First and foremost is Ephesoft. Ephesoft is a technology company around content capture, content classification, content extraction. You guys, I'm sure, are familiar with OCR, optical character recognition. I'd like to think of Ephesoft as OCR on steroids. They can really apply some cool technology to extract information off of unstructured document using AI and machine learning. And so we're using them as part of how we ingest content into a case management for FOIA purposes, as well as to an existing, whether it's an existing or a brand new case that we're creating. Second is obviously Armedia. We are a systems integrator along with a technology company around content management, around case management, around content capture, have been in business for 18 years or so. Today, we're going to showcase our ArtCase case management platform that talks about our FOIA solution. And then last but not least is Alfresco. Alfresco is also a technology company around content, process, as well as governance services. So we're going to utilize Alfresco not only to store any content related to our FOIA processes, but also utilizing their federation services to be able to search across multiple different repositories when we need to, again, within the same FOIA processing that we have. So let's talk about some typical case management challenges. As you may know, a lot of people may have case management. They may have disparate solutions that all encompass case management, or they may just have manual processes that they use. And as we talk about what they are specifically within FOIA, you will notice that lots of agencies are still utilizing manual processes to adjudicate the processes that they have within a FOIA or public record request. Lots of documents that are needed in order to address a FOIA request, and as such, you may have duplicate documents, missing documents, documents that are not digitized, which is the reason why we're using Ephesoft. Limited visibility to case tracking. As you can imagine, if a system is not on the cloud or not accessible by multiple people from multiple departments or locations, it would be much harder to adjudicate that case as efficiently or as the department would want. So the ability to have access to that system from various different locations is important. And then last but not least, there may be some reporting requirements. As you may know, DOJ has requirements for FOIA that need to be addressed throughout the year when you're doing FOIA processes. And then we also have a full platform to be able to address analytics. And so we can do a lot of cool things with predictive intelligence within the application. So these are some of the challenges that agencies may have by not utilizing a system to be able to efficiently process content. So specifically talking about FOIA challenges, first and foremost, FOIA requests have to be responded to by a certain time frame, depending on whether it's FOIA for federal or public record requests for state, local. That time may be different. But of course, there's a big stick associated with that, which is if you don't respond timely, you're going to get hit with penalties, lawsuits, etc. You can see an example of that on the right. A number of them, if you do a very simple Google search, you will see it. One of the important things that we have seen in the past 3 years or so, number of FOIA requests have dramatically gone up. Of course, agencies have not been able to hire or increase their hiring in that area. So there are a lot more requests, but of course, utilizing the same number of resources. And last but not least, obviously, agencies always want to make sure that they continue being accountable to their constituents. So that's always top of mind as well. So let's dissect these processes a little bit further. When you look at a manual or you look at a FOIA process, there are a number of steps that occur, certainly much more than the 6 or 7 that you see in this screen, but I wanted to summarize them in these 6 and also share with you what agencies that we run across have done. Again, some may be automated, great, but some are not. So on the left-hand side or left column, we have description of these tasks. So initially you receive an initial request. That request may be by a citizen, might be by the press, but different entities. And that request, believe it or not, even today gets entered into a spreadsheet in organizations or agencies that don't have an automated process. Then there is an acknowledgement letter that needs to be sent back. If you don't have a system that can do automatic correspondence management system, you're writing that in an email, you're writing that in a Word document and emailing it out, or snail mailing it. Believe it or not, it does happen in certain entities that are smaller. And you have to assess that request that comes in. This assessment may happen as a result of collaboration with multiple different parties. They may be within your department or certainly outside of the department. Once you know what that, essentially scoped request is, you have to do your record search. That record search could be across systems that are electronic or potentially not. That's when we use solutions like Ephesoft to be able to digitize the record, classify them automatically, and then be able to extract information from them. Next, you may do various different types of review, including legal. Part of this could be a redaction process. You may not be surprised that certain agencies still continue using manual redaction using a marker. And again, that may be okay in certain agencies. It may not be okay in all agencies. Certainly, it's prone to error. And so it's an area of concern for some agencies. Releasing back to the requester, again, can happen electronically, via email, via public portal. And then last but not least, the reporting portion of this happens manually in a lot of places where they don't have a solution. So let's talk about an automated process, how we could affect this process that I described using these 6 or 7 different types of tasks and automate it. So first and foremost, receiving the initial request can be done via a public portal. This public portal can be configured so that people go there and essentially create their case, and that's how it starts. Acknowledging receipt of a request that comes in can happen automatically using a correspondence management feature of the system itself. Being able to do that assessment of the request, again, is something that you can do in collaboration with folks that have access to the system, have access to email that is kept within the confines of that case record itself. Conducting record search, utilizing Alfresco's federated services. You can search across multiple different repositories and then get back a collection of documents that meet that search criteria. And then you're processing records for release. Again, part of this could be a legal review that gets done. Maybe you want to do redaction automatically by identifying PII information from the document itself. So lots of things happen here that can be automated using some solutions that we have that are outside of the box. And then ultimately the response back to the requester, which can happen, as I mentioned in the previous slide, using public portal, using email notification, again, all confined within the unique case record itself. And then reporting, out-of-the-box reporting that meets the DOJ rules and regulations that can happen automatically together with some analytics. So we have seen over the years that there is an over 60 to 70% improvement in transaction processing time when we use solutions from all three of these parties, one of which I obviously represent. And so it dramatically reduces the amount of pain points and manual processes that agencies see. So the workflow itself, if I can show you pictorially, you have an initial request that comes in. That request may go to a number of different FOIA analysts. They may take it through a workflow very similar to this, but it could also vary depending on agency to agency. So it could go through an intake process. Maybe you're assigning it to one or multiple caseworkers. There's an approval and a legal review that may happen. You're keeping track of your time because ultimately you're billing the requester. FOIA generally costs money, and so we're billing that back to the original requester, and then ultimately a response back to the original requester. The three players are represented in the following diagram. As I mentioned to you earlier, Ephesoft will be utilized to digitize any of the documents, be able to extract information, be able to classify the documents, either at the beginning when the case doesn't exist, or in support of an existing case because you're looking for some documents and you found them, but they're paper records, and so you need that. All the workflow processes obviously is done by our case application, and then together with the interaction with Alfresco Federation services, we're able to search across multiple repositories. And once we get all that document, whether it's in a working stage or a final stage, we're storing that within the Alfresco either content services or governance services if there is records management requirements. Benefits of the solution really evident, lower transaction processing time, lower error rates. Just imagine doing redaction using PII automatically across all the documents that you have in a very quick, fast speed sort of processing. Collaborating amongst different people in different locations, having that be accessible on a FedRA moderate environment, and ultimately, obviously, being in compliance. I'd like to close this out by referencing a quote that Gartner has given to case management in general. I'm sure you all know case management is a combination of three different products, perhaps one can argue. CRM, second is a business process management, and third is a content management system. All of this may work in one particular centralized application, or potentially disparate solutions. Obviously, centralized application has its own benefits, but as Gartner says, work is case-like when each work item, each case requires unique handling involving complex interactions between content, people, transactions, and business or regulatory policies in order to deliver an optimal outcome. With that, I wanted to thank everyone for listening to these 10, 12 minutes of